Hello, it's Jimmy, and I'm talking about this book, Should We Abolish Household Debts by Johnna Montgomerie. This book is on a specific economic topic, namely household individual private debt, but it doesn't assume any prior economic knowledge, and it's written in a way that makes it accessible both to people who have read about that sort of thing or even work on that sort of thing professionally, and to people who don't know much about that sort of thing at all. And as I'm going to talk about in a bit, it brings you into that conversation. It's talking about what seems like quite a radical proposal, which is taking a large amount of the existing private household debt and writing it off or reducing it in various ways that are detailed throughout the book. And that might seem quite radical or extreme or impractical. And when I first picked up the book, I thought this is going to be quite an idealistic book. It's going to be talking about what, in an ideal world, wouldn't things be much better if we were in a situation with far less household debt. But I wasn't expecting to see a clear path from where we are now to that point. But actually in the book she does make it seem very practical and pragmatic, and it almost seems like the obvious thing to do. She talks about existing financial laws and mechanisms and talks about hacking them so you could use them to bring about her proposals. So it makes it sound very realistic, sensible, and possible. I think a vital part of changing the economic balance of power is bringing more people into the conversation about economics and economic policies, because a lot of the time it's made to seem really complicated and like who could understand it and why would you even want to try, so dry and so boring. But actually it has a huge impact on a lot of people's lives, and by limiting the understanding to a really narrow set of people, a really narrow set of people are driving economic policy for the benefit on the whole of quite a narrow set of people. And I think this book, Johnna Montgomerie's book, is part of a bit of a trend towards short, accessible books that aren't just explaining some economic idea it's not economics for dummies. It's taking you seriously and it's proposing something new or explaining something with a new angle that's new even to economics, but doing it in such a way that they're not just trying to talk to the existing economic establishment, which causes half the problems they're trying to solve, but open up the conversation and make it accessible to more people. So Johnna Montgomerie's book is part of that trend, I think, and so is Anne Pettifor. This book, The Production of Money, which I read a couple of months ago as well, it's another one that's quite short, less than 200 pages, and fairly accessible, and gets you understanding some things that are overcomplicated and even misunderstood even by professional economists. But these authors make it seem very accessible and understandable. So I would recommend both of these books, even if you don't necessarily agree with everything, even if you don't think you're interested in economics. I think it's a good idea to read it, because I think you will understand them, whoever you are, and once you start to understand it and engage in the conversation, maybe you will start to find it interesting and have an opinion on it and see how your life and all of our lives can be improved by changing the way we as a society view economics and various parts of the economy and things like that. So I was lucky enough to go to the launch of the book, How to Abolish Household Debts, and there were a number of interesting speakers. One was Anne Pettifor, who wrote the other book, so I brought that along, and thank you to both the authors. I got them both signed, which is really nice. And it was a really interesting launch. The author of the book, Johnna Montgomerie, gave a bit of a talk and a presentation going over some of the ideas and also talking a bit about where the book came from and things like that. And then there were 3 different people on the panel. They each spoke for about 10 minutes about their own thing. Then it went to the audience and people put up their hands and they each spoke for a minute or 2 each, explaining their own ideas and perspectives. And then the author wrapped it all up again. And it was a really nice, interesting, thought-provoking discussion. And it was quite inspiring to be in a room of people where solutions to big problems felt like they could almost be at hand. So I enjoyed that a lot. I think there's a lot of good things you could say about this book. I recommend checking it out. And thank you very much for watching my video. You can leave a comment down below on YouTube, or to get in touch another way, you can get me on Twitter at JIIM_E, or on Instagram at Jimmy_can_read.